This isn't going to be a well thought out critique. Oh, sorry about that. Just coughed up some blood. I was trying to set up a barrier to negate all criticism that I would probably get from this video because I'm criticizing Jojo. And thus would have listed out so many people saying like, oh, how dare you actually go against him because he has an opinion you don't like. Obviously, this has to be said that my critiques of Jojo Part 4 are of subjective stance. And hey, you're watching the guy who apparently has the inability to pronounce names correctly from this franchise to the point of letting his editor roast him in the 2 Jojo videos that he's made.
And guess what? I'm gonna do it again too.
Okay.
I get things wrong, and so long as people don't use the tired and true "it's an opinion" card, I don't mind if people point out my mistakes. Hell, you're talking to the guy who made 7 videos dedicated to arguing with MatPat about game theory. Do I look like I have any actual shame about me?
Nope.
But back to this video, I'm talking about my issues with Part 4 of Jojo. Now, Jojo Part 4 is my favorite part of the series thus far. I know a lot of people say the later parts of Jojo are great, but there's just something about Part 4 that made me really like Jojo the most. It's what got me dedicated to the series. Before then, I was more of a Fairweather fan. And when the anime came out...
Oh, fuck yeah! This is the shit!
Look, I'm a guy who loves artistical crap. And just seeing this opening of so many colors, dynamic music, and the style oozing from it, I'm sorry, just clicked something in my brain. But now let's talk about the negatives, and I'll be referring to the specifics when it comes to the anime and manga versions, since there are some differences between the two. Also, spoilers, I guess? Do I really need to warn you people about spoilers for Part 4?
You never see it come back. You say that my mind is too fast for eyes. How dare you?
Now, to make it clear, I'm not talking about Okuyasu's stand, the HANDO. Although, I do have a bit of an issue with how Araki made blatant characterization with Okuyasu who's not too bright, yet he's able to do some pretty wicked shit with the hand when chasing after Red Hot Chili Pepper. Hell, one could say he learned the trick after a scuffle with Josuke and the plants. I don't know, I like Okuyasu, so I don't want to harp on the character. I'd rather harp on the opening scene for Part 4's anime. Like, I get the idea was to instill that while there's a peaceful town going on and that this offers a creepy vibe, it kinda lessens the whole impact of seeing Kira later. I'm rather torn on this, since while this does provide foreshadowing for Kira later in the series, it doesn't really mean a whole lot, especially when you consider that there's such a leap from the beginning to when the crew actually goes after Kira. I'm not opposed to there being changes from the original source material to the anime. Hell, if you ask me, the part with the ancient tribe that's at the beginning of Jojo Part 1 being cut from the anime is a good move, since we get a lot more focus on the backstories of Jonathan and Dio, and it does a good number for the pacing of the show. But the hand scene from Part 4, it just irks me for some reason, and I know there are going to be changes done to the story in the anime, stuff like the Arrow and Dio's flashbacks of Part 3, when his stand was being explained, but I don't know, it just seems odd to me to have this included, especially for Part 4. We immediately start off with the story of Jotaro going to find Josuke and seeing the weird abilities that Josuke had. This is probably my weakest complaint, because I'm not even sure where I stand on this.
How dare you?
You will carry out our...
Alright, so here's a complaint I'm sure not a lot of people were expecting. The cast. No, not the actual characters, but the sheer number of them and how it's a detriment to the story. And to make it clear, I love the cast of Diamond is Unbreakable, but a lot of the characters get the shaft and become superfluous. The biggest example is Tonio, the chef. After his introduction, he might as well just disappear into the ether. Yukiko. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Appears on the volume covers with the main cast, but she really only has 2 major arcs and doesn't have any actual main fights against the antagonists of the series. Kinda gives the vibes of the she's the girl of the group. Then there's the one-off stand uses at the party fights, to apparently become allies later on, but aside from 1 or 2 appearances, they don't really show up in the series. Now, I'm gonna make a really weird comparison here, just bear with me for a second though. There's also the fact that in the second half of the show, we kinda get an updated cast. What I mean by this is that new characters appear and they get more focus put onto them. Characters like Mikitaka and Yuya. And don't get me wrong, I actually like these 2 characters. In fact, I love how Yuya develops as the plot goes on and found his battle against Teranosuke and Enigma to be really enjoyable. And who doesn't love the alien guy? But the problem is that they come so late into the story that they overshadow the previously established side characters. This isn't as egregious as, say, and here comes the comparison that I'm sure people are gonna laugh at me for, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
Get your game on.
Look, just hear me out, and spoilers for an anime that's well over 15 years old at this point and is about card games at a school to learn how to play said card game. In GX, well, in the anime, there was an introduction of new characters in the 3rd season who were all intents and purposes very interesting.
Australian, Jim!
To the point where they actually overshadowed the main secondary characters. And not just design, but also personality. I mean, you'd have to stand out with a fucking alligator on your back!
Danger, danger, danger.
Point is, these characters got a lot more screen time, they got more development, and legitimately had better designs than, well, the original boring cast. They basically usurped the original cast. And this is kind of the same in Part 4, but to a much less egregious case. Obviously. But I feel as though the characters in Part 4 kinda do get, like, sidelined. Especially when you consider that Joseph, yes, well, it did get nice development with him and Josuke when they found Shizuka, and we see Joseph's selfish nature, but he fades into the background. I really wish they had done more with the character, especially since he's the father of the main character. There should have been more scenes involving Josuke and Joseph bonding, or at least learning more about each other than what we got. Really, this hurts all the characters, even the new ones that get introduced, as they essentially become character fodder. Hell, Mikitaka, despite being such a quirky and fun character, only gets 2 actual situations where he's a part of. Kinda seems like a waste. Say what you will about Part 3 and its pacing and the character issues, at least we had some really entertaining scenes of the characters with each other. And that's due to the smaller cast. At the very least, the main cast in Part 3 gets more time to shine. I mean, not as much as Jojo does, but he's the main character, and that's to be expected. And actually leads quite well into my next issue.
How dare you!
I would. The stupid.
Josuke happens to be one of my favorite JoJos, and I feel like he kinda gets pushed to the side in his own part. Now before you guys decide to lynch me for that,
Shut it!
let me explain. When it comes to Josuke, he doesn't really change all that much over the course of the story. Yes, at the beginning he starts off as an apologetic young man who flies off the handle, but almost immediately at the beginning, his apologetic side disappears and that's pretty much all we've got. We do get storylines dedicated to him working with Joseph and Jotaro, like Let's Go Hunting had more subtle exploration of the uncle and nephew relationship, but it was kinda paltry if you ask me, and didn't really go too much anywhere. And it's a really weird family dynamic that's not really explored all that much with Josuke. You know, the high schooler being uncle to a fully grown adult. In fact, a lot of media doesn't depict this kind of family dynamic, so it feels a bit of a waste to me. In addition, I wish we had more scenes dedicated to Jotaro being like a big brother to Josuke, which, funnily enough, Koichi got the moments like that. Don't get me wrong, Koichi's awesome in that regard, but this is kind of the issue I have with Josuke in Part 4. And that he gets pushed into a secondary role of sorts. I already talked about how Josuke and Joseph, but I want to elaborate more since I'm talking about Josuke specifically in this section. Like, yeah, we see some minor development between the two when they find Shizuka, but that's pretty much it. Like, this old man is your father, and just after one situation you're willing to accept him as such? A man who not only had a fling with your mother and has been gone your entire life.
Hey, have you seen your dad?
He went to the store to get some more milk.
He went where?
In one situation that fully changes your perspective of him. Hell, this was even brought up by Josuke himself. By the way, that same situation with Shizuka, that cost Josuke almost all of his money. It really feels that despite being the main character of that part, Josuke doesn't really get all that much development, which sucks, and I know that you don't need character development in a story, since that can be just as entertaining, but when I see many interesting character dynamics and relationships go to waste in this regard, or be given bare bones treatment, it kind of irks me. And I really like Josuke. I like his design, I like his stand power, I like how he flips his wig if you dare talk about his hair. I just feel for the part that I hear gets praised where this is where Araki's writing starts to get really good, that there are issues with the main character's writing. They aren't offensive, mind you, obviously, but I feel like there should have been more done, especially with the setup that you have with Josuke. I think it's a bit too Koichi-centric for Part 4, especially when he got so much development in the part that as he develops, so does his hair. And a detriment to me since the name of the story is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, not Koichi's Bizarre Adventure. I would like the JoJo to be the centerpiece of the story. Not to have all the development or interesting things happen to him, obviously, but I would like to see more time dedicated to Josuke. The thing about JoJo Part 4 that really stands out is all the downtime that the characters have. There's a reason why arcs like Let's Go Eat Italian Food are really popular.
Pizza time.
Since it has Josuke and Okuyasu basically just hanging out and having genuine character moments with each other. It also allows the audience and readers to see that the characters display different personality traits other than being angry or scared or pissed off all the time. And that's the idea with the slice of life that really appeals to people, and it stands out from the previous parts of Jojo, at least if you ask me. Previous parts had a focus on traveling to exotic lands on the other hand, but the downtime that we get in part 4 is such a breath of fresh air, but it's few and far between with the large amounts of conflict. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the conflict is bad. Hell, I really enjoy these scenes, especially when you got like Josuke breaking up apart a bike and then reforming it with Crazy Diamond. But seeing characters go through similar situations like they did with Let's Go Eat Italian Food would be really fun, and the later part of I Am an Alien reflects this as well, with the dice rolls against Rohan. I love that stuff! I wish there was more! Man, this is a short part.
How dare you?
What a beautiful Duwang.
So, this is the section where I talk about things that bugged me but couldn't justify making them their own dedicated parts. Didn't stop you with your last section. Oh, shut up. Rohan's stand getting more powerful and losing the unique counter. Initially, in order to use this extremely powerful stand, someone had to see in page of his manga. It was a unique limitation that I really liked, and made the overpowered ability much more balanced. Now he can just draw into the air, and that's all that's really needed to work on people. I know, that just seems really broken to me, and I get that's probably the case with Rohan. I don't know, it's just something that irks me. There were some pacing issues in the manga, but not too much of an issue, that's why I'm not giving too many examples right now. There was a bit of a lack of direction in the first half of the part, and while we do get some good character stuff, it leaves a bit of a disjointed feeling when we transition into the murder portion of the story. The Cinderella arc. Like, maybe this is on my busted up brain, but holy hell, this was just so forgettable. Not helped is that we don't really see Koichi and Yukiko acting like an actual couple until the end of the series. Which, you know, kinda sucks since that was made out to be a big deal. I guess that's why I blanked out on Aya in my Cosmonaut video. She's just so forgettable of a character. We needed more.
Angelo.
Help me!
When the investigation begins, mostly just Jotaro and Rohan are the ones who are actually fully invested into it. Everyone else is just going about their everyday lives. I get that most of the cast is teenagers, but I would have liked if there were more people getting into the investigation. Damn, that killer killed my ugly friend Shigeki!
Shigechi, just like they do in the show.
And he escaped! I must hurry and use an alien guy to rip money off of Rohan Sensei! Look, at the end of the day, I still really like part 4. It's the part where Araki actually managed to start getting more experimental with his character writings. Although, that being said, it still has its flaws. But hey, they don't really detract from the overall part for me. Still, these are just my opinions, and like most humans, I am flawed. I know. Shocking, isn't it? Hell, just look in my comment sections. I'm routinely called out for messing up names, and as such, I realize my thoughts are subject to biases and fallacies. I do hope that I at least explained myself a little better than
the funny, cowardly character.
Anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on part 4? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm MangaKamen, and remember to examine your fandom.
Blooper time.
You done fucked up!
But the problem is that they come so late into the story that they overshadow the previously established side character. What the fuck was that? We do get chapters dedicated to him working blah, blah. And that actually leads White, well, by the way, that same sister... What the hell was that? By the way, that same situation with Shizu... I don't know what happened there. By the way, that same situation with Shizuka... What the... I feel like I'm having a seizure right now. Shizuka. What the hell? I was able to say it right last time. So, here we go. Rohan's stand getting more... Rohan's stand getting more... Rohan's stand getting more powerful and lost the big... What the...
Attention and file. March 4 miles to share our life with the stars above. We mean it duly because it's our duty to salute your beauty. Wow. Nobody gets another out of town. There's no denial. You leave us stifled with the radiant smile. You better put on your goggles, cause we're gonna bring the heat. Cruise with me, there's lots to see.